41% of the price drops in the Austin area are from new construction homes. And new construction homes make up 35% of the inventory nationwide and in the Austin area. So how much trouble are home builders in going into 2024? Jeremy at the Night Group, your favorite Austin realtor. Look, I love to give you lots of information about home builders, but the question begs, do you think home builders are going to be in really rough shape going into 2024? Are home builders screwed, basically? Because the market so far isn't getting like a ton better, yet builders are still making out ahead. And I got some really good information I'm going to show you. So here we go. So let's start with this home builder sentiment. Now, this is a survey that Wells Fargo does, and it basically says like how home builders are feeling. At the beginning of the year, home builders were starting to feel pretty optimistic. As we hit October, it fell to 40. Now, this, 40%, that's pretty not good for home builders to be at 40%. Now, they were targeting to be at 44%, which is still below 50%. Like if 50% is your confidence level, like 40% is not very good. And so a lot of this has to do with the fact that mortgage rates had gone up. It has become more unaffordable for builders to build still because they have to still put out a pretty high dollar price in order to make money. Now, we'll show you some information about stocks and how they're doing stock-wise. But when you look at the builders, over the last, couple of years, they've had a lot of problems with supply chain. Now, supply prices are getting better for builders. So that means they're able to bring prices down a little bit. But this confidence level isn't very good for builders. There's things that builders have been doing that kind of artificially raise that confidence level, but that hasn't happened. And we'll tell you what they are. So one of the things that these builders have been doing is offering incentives. And I wanted to save incentives further in this video, but I really think the incentives are the reason why builders' confidence level isn't actually lower. Because the reality is in this 40%, they're seeing a lot less, or this 40% confidence level, they're seeing a lot less foot traffic. So what are they having to do? They're having to advertise these incentives. So they're pre-buying loans, basically, and pre-packaging loans to sell out on a future date. So what they're doing is they're really trying to do these incentives as far as like getting you in 4.9%, 5.9, doing these buy down rates. And these buy down rates have actually been quite helpful for some of these builders. What's wild is as I was filming this video, I started getting emails. So I checked my emails real quick. So from a company that I do not like to name or will not name, they're now offering 5% buyer broker commission, which this is one of those companies that paid me 1% as my clients cried closing because they did such a poor job. And it was one of the hardest deals I've had to deal. Here's another one that I literally just got. So closing out for Oak Forest, they're offering 4.75% interest rate. So that's a pretty good one. The $24,000 one is one. My email is literally full every time I open it with more incentives. So look, these builders, if they run out of incentives, they're going to have to start cutting prices. It's going to be kind of crazy. I think without these incentives and being able to have these incentives, they wouldn't be that high. Because here is the reality. In the market right now, almost 35% of homes on the market are actually new construction. In the Austin area, that number is 35%. So that's a pretty wild number that much of the inventory is actually new construction. Here's the crazy thing. I have all the lists. I've been going through builders recently. And if you haven't been following my other channel, I do a property tour channel, and I do a lot of different property tours. We do new construction, custom homes, all sorts of stuff. So check out my property tour channel. But I went through and I looked at this. One thing I noticed about this is I started looking up this inventory. So I went to Newmark Homes recently and Weston Homes. This isn't anything bad about these builders. But one thing, like the Weston Home brochure, shows like their prices. There was price and they're now price. We're talking $1,035,000 down to $934, $1,076,000 down to $969. So all of these are price reduced. There's quite a few on this list. The Newmark one didn't give me their price reductions, but they have quite a bit. What I noticed is not all of these are actually on the MLS. If the inventory is 35% and builders actually have more inventory than they're posting online, that means there's more hidden inventory. So we're already showing you price reductions and things like that they're trying to do to incentivize buyers to come in, but their margins are already pretty low. So they're getting a lot of that because they partner with these lenders and things like that. But pretty interesting that I think that there's a lot of hidden inventory. For 35%, that's quite a bit. One thing that I wanted to notate on this as well, as far as the incentives go, my email is full of these builders sending me all of their incentives. And so I want to show you a quick incentive that I saw that I felt was pretty interesting and very telling. Before I do that, let's talk about price reductions. So I have right here showing you price reductions. So earlier in the video, I said that price reductions were 41% of the actual price reductions, which is huge. What I'm seeing a lot of is like this. This house right here has been on the market for 315 days. So imagine a lot of the time they're still building this home, so it's not complete. But this home started at 1.2 million down to 997. So you're seeing a lot of price reductions with these builders, right? So this was at 1.2 million, and this listed back in the middle of 2022, May of 2022. And now it's been on the market a whole year down $200,000, more than $200,000. So you're seeing price reductions across the board. I saw a price reduction yesterday from one of the builders. The house had been on the market 7 days. They'd already dropped it $20,000. So if you are looking at buying new construction towards the end of the year, because that's what this whole video is about, I would keep an eye on what deals you can and can't get. Again, partner with a really good realtor, because I pull all this information. I go find all this information and give it to my clients because I want to make sure that we're getting a good deal. We're going to negotiate the best incentives, because look, the other thing that they do is they offer like this $24,000 that this one builder MI is offering is $24,000. And this is towards your buy down, which sounds great, but there are a lot of things tied to this. What does the actual incentive give you, right? So if you're buying a new construction and you're getting like a $24,000 incentive like this, does that buy down the rate? Is it only a temporary buy down? Is it buying out the life of the mortgage? You may need to understand a little more detail. Like, yeah, they're going to give you $24,000, but is that on a 30-year fixed? Is that only for 3 years? So what that means is like the first year it's 3.9, the next year it's 4.9, the next year it's 5.9, and then you're at 8%, right? Because the mortgage rates are still about 7.5% right now. Okay, so something to think about there. The other thing when I talk about these incentives, I saw this and in the same vein of price reductions, I'm not going to tell you the builder that put this out, but I read this in the MLS notes and I was baffled. Now, so here's the incentive that they're giving. They're giving up to 6% towards closing costs in incentive offer, right? So they're going to give the buyer up to 6% of the sales price in incentives. Fantastic incentive. Additional eligibility and limited restrictions apply. So they're already baking in that there's some restrictions here. But here's what's interesting. A lot of these builders that 2 years ago were not incentivizing agents to bring clients because I don't know if they just couldn't pay agents or they were trying to really take hay in the market. There's quite a few that we railed on this channel. One that not because of the commission thing, but because of how they treated my clients, I will never bring them back to, which is Lennar. I don't trust that company. I don't trust what they did. I don't appreciate what they've ever done in my clients. So yeah, there's that. But so I don't want to say this builder here, but this builder was offering like 1% commission to agents, and we worked very hard. And we can do a whole video about the whole commission thing for buyers agents in the future. If you want me to write that, do a whole breakdown of that. If you saw the NAR information that came out about the antitrust, drop a comment below. That is a video that I want to break down in more detail because there's a lot of nuance to that. But what I'm talking about here, so this builder has never offered an incentive for buyers or for buyers agents. They are now offering 4% commission. But read this because this is interesting. So commission is 4% of base price. So what happens with these builders, they have a base price and then all the incentives and everything you pick. A lot of times agents get paid on the final price. Well, they're only going to pay on 4% of the base price. Whatever, it's not a big deal. But what I wanted to point out here, it says commission is based on 4% of the base price purchase agreement date, not list price. However, the final purchase price of the home. So this is where things get really, really interesting with this. Okay. It's not that they're offering 4%. It's not like that's great that they're finally doing that for agents. But here's the verbiage in what they wrote here. And this is in the MLS, so we can find this, right? However, if the final purchase price of the home is less than the base price of the home as of the purchase agreement date, then the commission shall be based upon the final purchase price of the home in the closing disclosure or settlement statement. Let me break that down for you because you may not have caught that. If the home price is less than the base price, I just told you the base price of a home is the base price of the home. So if they advertise homes for $500,000, but then you got to add the lot, that's 30 grand. But then you got to add the upgrades, that's another 45 grand. Then you got to add in structural upgrades. Now you're at $600,000. So if that $600,000 home that's spec'd out after everything is less than the initial base price, so what that's saying is that if the builder's taking a bath on this property, then we're going to renegotiate the buyer agent commission on this, is basically kind of how they're wording that. So, or they're, how they're structuring this. That's showing you that builders are kind of really in trouble right now. Number one, like I said, inventory is high. What's keeping them afloat is all of these incentives. There's a lot of price drops. I mean, 41% of the price drops are in new construction. There's all these articles talking about the price drops for builders. Okay, so when it comes to affordability, one thing to think about, in order to get back to pre-pandemic levels, you would have to have income spike 62% for that to happen, or you would have to have prices drop 38% for that to happen, or mortgage rates drop 4.4%. So do you think one of those things is actually possible? And so if you're looking at home builders, the way you combat that is by offering these incentives, right? That gives you more flexibility and your buyer's flexibility without you having to drop your prices too much. Because look, if you can get one of those three down, so if you're getting it back to 5.9% or 4.9%, hey, buyers are a little more incentivized to buy that potentially overpriced house. What do you think? What's interesting about this, though, is if we are looking at builders and saying builders are indeed in trouble, we actually look at builder stocks. Builder stocks are doing really well. So there's articles out about D.R. Horton still doing well, Lennar still doing well. All of these builders are still doing well in the stock market. Part of that has to do with the fact that Warren Buffett put almost $1 billion into the housing market going into 2024, 2025. As far as we look, interest rates did drop a little bit, so that does help these builders and helps their stocks. Interest rates dropping does spur buyers back into the market. Is that going to actually help builders? So if you are buying new construction towards the end of the year, let's really focus on the incentives you're getting to actually get a really, really good rate. Secondly, we really want to work on price. And this is what we're working with our clients right now. We have several clients in a contract with new construction because, again, we just talked about how the builder's price, if it's priced below the base price. So if you buy a $500,000 home in a neighborhood, but you got $24,000 in incentives, but you paid $500,000 and that home drops to $475,000, well, that $25,000 that you got in incentives is washed. Now, again, I think it's really important for everyone to understand that we are potentially buying under the dip right now because the high was a year and a half ago. So again, if you are buying new construction or if you're buying resale, it's really important that you understand your finances and you definitely try not to buy something that you may end up having to sell in 2 years. Oh yeah. And the other thing that's really hurting the Austin area is still property taxes. So pay attention to that. Gemini the Night Group, did you find value in this video? Do you appreciate what we do here? We'll see you in the next video. Make sure to comment, subscribe as well.